Today, I'm going to talk about the 3 reasons why we went with triple glazed glass on all the doors and windows in this house. I'm Nick Schiffer, custom home builder in Boston, and we are at 45 White Oak, our ultra luxury spec home here in Wellesley. And with me here is Patrik from European Architectural Supply. His team not only provided all of the windows and doors on this project, but also did the install. So functionality, we have 3 different windows on site. We have panoramic glass, we have tilt-turn windows on the 2nd floor, and then we have our lift slide units on the 1st floor. But Patrik, take me back to when I came to your showroom, I'm going to say many, many months ago at this point.
I remember when we were looking at this project, we looked at aluminum windows, and these were aluminum clad windows here as well. We ended up doing solid white oak windows for you with aluminum cladding on the outside, because this was the window that gave us the ability to customize the window frame in a way that we could achieve the panoramic look that the architect was looking for here.
And that was really what set the stage for both our lift slides and our tilt turn, is that panoramic look. Why is that directly related to the window that we end up picking, which is the wood with aluminum clad?
Because Macrowind, the company that makes the wood aluminum clad windows for us, has the capability to customize the frame for us to reach the kind of alignments that we were looking for here. In fact, the window that we made for you here is kind of a one-of-a-kind window frame that, you know, as far as I know, is only used on this project to date.
That checks out.
Yeah, plus the gorgeous windows, you know, like even we were, you know, breath was taken away when the windows showed up.
Why is that? Like, what makes this such a nice window?
Aside from the oak and the wood that goes, you know, into the window, the way the windows are manufactured, really, we cannot do anything else to make an aluminum clad window any better than this. We have a wood that's cross-laminated, so it gives you the maximum amount of stability, which is really important here with the seasons and humidity changes that we have in New England.
This is a cross-section of what a tilt-turn window looks like. So solid wood construction. These doors and windows, they're wood all the way to the exterior. So we have white oak to the exterior. And when we say aluminum clad, that means there's a cladding of aluminum on the outside. And that's strictly just for finish.
Yes.
Just so the outside has a different finish on it.
The exterior of this window, you really should not have to touch for 50 years.
And because this is a powder coated finish.
There's a powder coated finish, but there are a few things that are unique about this window. So if you typically look at an aluminum clad window that you can get from a North American supplier, you will always see cut miters right here in the corners. This cladding that comes from our Macrowind factory is welded and sanded at the factory before the finish comes on. So once it's powder coating, there are no seams right here. And these seams are really the places where the age and corrosion really attacks your cladding from. So this cladding will last as long as it gets from aluminum. You then have a finish that's applied at the factory. This is like a 3-coat spray finish. The entire perimeter of the window is finished. So even under the glass right here, we have finish in here. And this is what gives your windows the stability when, you know, humidity comes in, the dry air comes in, etc.
They're finishing the entire piece of wood before it's assembled.
Yep. And you probably see it even like when you use, let's say, siding here in New England. You know how you guys are back priming, like siding?
Yep.
The whole idea is to have finish on the other side. You know, why are you doing it? Because you want moisture to be impacting, you know, siding, you know, as little as possible on the other side and warping it. And the same thing goes here. You want the finishes under the glass right here finished, because you might get some cold spot right over here with a little bit of condensation. You want under the gasket, under the hardware, all of this is finished. And this gives wood stability.
This is basically laminated for stability, and then they're completely coating it and then assembling it.
Correct.
Let's talk about functionality. I'll put this down. Panoramic glass, or as you call it, panoramic side light.
The panoramic means like the glass goes all the way to the floor.
Right.
Right. And you know, architects love this stuff. Customers love this.
Architects do love this stuff. And it's very challenging. And to think back to how this was prepped, we started basically this house off the window shops. Like, that was what like, beyond design, the first technical drawing we had to get through was window shop drawings. Then we rolled into framing shop drawings, and then we built foundation drawings. All of the 1st floor windows and doors sit on top of our foundation wall. And that's what's giving us the ability to run our finished flooring into the backside of our threshold, which then opens up completely flush with the exterior. Talk to me about the functionality of a lift slide, because you've been known to say that this is the highest performing way to do a sliding door. Why is that?
In the industry, there's like really no discussion at this point. Anybody who makes a high quality sliding door, whether in Europe or even here in North America, uses the lift slide mechanism because it's the right way to do a sliding door. I just noticed that you opened this door with one hand. I know that this sash is like 600 to 700 pounds, and you were able to open it easily. So right now, you're not fighting any gaskets or anything, right? Because this door is lifted. Now let's open up this door and let's close it just for a moment, right? Try to move the sash now.
Yeah.
It's impossible because just now the 600 pounds sat on this gasket. Now you got the air tightness out of the door. And so you are not having to fight a compromise between I'm either airtight but really difficult to operate, or I'm easy to operate but I'm not airtight in there.
It describes exactly how it functions. It lifts.
Yeah, and you can see the lift.
And then
I just saw the, yeah.
When you're thinking about a sliding door, if that door is always at the same elevation, you're relying on gasketing and sweeps to kind of prevent air infiltration. This is you're dropping the entire door, that's 600-700 pounds, and you're compressing a gasket on the back.
When you don't have the lift, you have to use like brush gaskets for it, and it's very difficult to make brush gaskets airtight.
When you go to shut it, are you relying on just this to keep the door shut? One question that comes up, how do you open it from the outside? You don't.
This particular door was configured with handles on the inside, so once it's open, you can slide it open from outside. If, for example, you're building a lake house and I want to come from the boat and enter the door through the sliding door, you can configure handle on the outside as well, but then you have to have a cylinder and a key on every single lift slide door.
Yeah, in this case,
you made the design decision here that that's not going to be a use here.
When that handle's all the way up, it's not only relying on the weight, but you also have jam locks. Is that right?
So you have multiple locking points here that we can see on the side of the jam right here. So this particular door has three locking points that it locks into. So not all of our lift slide doors are built this way. If you were to get a regular lift slide door from us, you would see a sash that looks just like this on the fixed portion as well. So you'd have a piece of, wood rail right over here. In this particular case, this is a special design of the lift slide door where the glass is glazed directly into the frame to give you this zero glass edge, right? And if you look throughout this house, this is a really important design detail here that the architect was looking for. With the floor coming flush to it, and the decking on the outside, it looks really good. And you see that here too. Like this was a specific design intent that you're repeating on the edge of the glass here as well. Yeah,
our jams, we essentially, actually on your shops, we built it, but you have this 1/8 inch radius here. And if you look really closely, that stop edge, we keep it the thickness of a piece of ram board away from the oak for separation between materials. But that leading edge of that stop bead is right where your radius stops. Yeah. So you're not truly flush in the finish, but you're very you're very close. And
it's challenging because whenever you do things this accurately, requires a lot of craftsmanship to get this done.
I do want to go upstairs to the tilt turns, but before we do, let's talk about energy efficiency. This door and then the two that are through the glass that are connected to our dining space and our living room, very last minute request from our side. We were going through the HVAC design, and I think I called you in a panic. I said, Patrik, the glass on these 3 units, I need to change the coating on them because my cooling load is massive because it's just soaking in the sun from the backyard. And we were able to thankfully change that specification on that coating, reducing the cooling equipment by 50% in size, which was a massive savings. Walk me through the energy efficiency. What are the things that we're paying attention to when it comes to glazing, especially when we're talking about triple glazed glass?
So we're talking about a low E coatings. Now, people typically think it's like there's regular glass and there's a low E coated glass, but there's not one type of low E coating glass. In this particular case, we have 3 panes of glass. So we have 6 surfaces that we can put coatings on. Your windows have coatings on 2 surfaces, and by choosing different kind of coatings, we can reach the solar heat gain coefficient that you wanted for your design. So you have a coating on surface number 2 and then a surface number 5 right there. And so you can come to us and say, hey, we did our energy modeling and we would like the solar heat gain coefficient to be at like around 30, 32. And we can pick different kind of coatings and custom build glass for you for that specific requirement. You can do a hybrid project where where some of your windows use higher solar heat gain coefficient, where maybe you get a lot of benefits in the winter months to bring that energy in. And then some areas you lower the solar heat gain coefficient, because here I'm worried about overheating with the orientation of the house. It's also really important for us, like, we make windows that go to Arizona and Texas, and each one of these climates has very special requirements for this.
And also sound.
Yep.
One thing I noticed with the glazed glass is it's really quiet in here.
Yeah. We don't use it enough in our marketing because we're always focused on like energy efficiency, but we're replacing windows like in a project in Boston that's right next to the hospital district, right? And so this is a high-rise building, and they're going from single pane windows to triple pane. So when we talk to the customers, you think that they would tell us about how like amazing that are from an energy point of view. The first thing customers tell us is like, we can't hear the ambulances anymore.
Yeah.
Right? It's a huge, it's a big kind of freebie you get from having an energy efficient window, because air tightness, which you get from the gaskets in here, has a huge impact on how much sound comes through the window. So when you get an energy efficient window, typically you're getting a real nice benefit of quiet.
Something that comes up constantly is, okay, you're dealing with a flush transition. You live in New England, or you have snow, you have ice, you have driven rain. We have, like, most of our openings are protected, but we actually have these two right here that are very much not. So talk to me about, from a weather perspective, how does that hold up? Is there any other considerations for that?
Water infiltration is a big factor. Lift slide doors tend to perform really well because of that. When you bring the sash down, you sit on the gaskets. So long you don't have like accumulation of water on the outside that would somehow pool up over the rail. They perform pretty well. In-swing doors are really the most vulnerable ones.
Sure.
I always, window and door people, don't like to openly speak about this, right? But it's like, you give me a leaf blower and a hose, and I'll push water through almost like every in-swing door on the market. In-swing doors are really, really challenging in the way the gasket geometry works.
Let's go up to the second floor, because you're saying that an in-swing door is the most challenging to gasket appropriately, but a tilt-turn window swings in.
I'll show you why.
Let's go upstairs. On the second floor, we have these fixed units, which are panoramic. Then we have these tilt-turn units. These are individual. And then we have combination of the two. So what you have here is your tilt-turn window, and then your panoramic fixed window here. But if I turn this handle, this is, in my opinion, an in-swing door, with the exception of maybe this wouldn't be a very attractive threshold.
Exactly.
So that
makes all the difference, yeah. So you notice that tilt-turn windows, they're designed to be waterproof, not just when they're closed, but also designed to be waterproof when you leave them open. So, very often you tilt open a window and you leave the house. And that window is still waterproof in most rain conditions, short of like nor'easter.
You're talking about this
like
function here.
Exactly. And the way that works is you notice, I'm going to grab the cross section here, you notice that there is this gutter on the outside of the window that's designed to collect any moisture that can get through the window right there.
Got it.
And this is the gutter that makes windows incredibly water infiltration resistant. So we almost never get callbacks on tilt-turn windows leaking because of this feature. And so all this water right now, whether this window is open or even when it's shut, collects in this gutter right here and it drains to the exterior. This is what makes a window so water infiltration resistant. And I can tell you that we have like aluminum windows that have these features well. When we go to the testing lab to test the windows, the fixed panel will leak water before the operable one does. Because of this feature.
Because it's managing the water rather than trying to prevent water. Oftentimes we just try to block water. Like just don't enter, we're gonna prevent you.
Caulking gun, right?
Yeah, and the problem with that is you're so reliant on the fact that it can't, if it makes its way beyond that barrier, you're screwed.
Yeah.
But let's just prevent it from ever happening. Where this is the mindset of well, let's prevent water from getting in there. But if it does, here's how we manage it. Yeah. It's kind of like a window pan, and you're kind of considering the fact that, hey, water might make its way through here. Let's make sure we're detailing and considering
this
that.
drainage path that we're looking at here is still going to be working 20 years from now.
Yeah.
A caulk joint will need maintenance, right? It needs to be renewed, etc. This is a really bulletproof way to do water infiltration resistance.
Tilt-turn windows are from the 50s, 60s and 70s is where they started building a lot of popularity and starting moving to different parts of Europe, and then later got to North America. Social media, it reminds me every time I post a tilt-turn window that these are not new. They're 70 plus years old at this point, But you're only seeing a small percentage of North American homes built this way compared to, say, a traditional, say, double hung window. Talk to me about the performance differences and why you think there's such maybe a resistance to move towards this style window.
Well, it's changing. So we've been in business, believe it or not, 22 years. So we've seen what this looked like 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, right? Tilt-turn windows are really coming to North America in a big way. For instance, most commercial multi-unit projects in Boston, Cambridge, Somerville, the neighborhoods that have strict energy codes are already designed with European tilt-turn windows like off the bat. So the blue, like 20 years ago, we had to explain people what this looked like,
sure,
et cetera. Now we get blueprints for commercial buildings that already have like European tilt-turn windows like drawn into them. And contractors too, like we now see a lot more contractors that tell us, oh, yeah, I've done European windows before, this is a piece of cake for us to install. We don't have to do as much assistance, give to as much assistance to installers to do this window. So it's really changing in a big way.
You also said that what we've done here will still be one of the more higher performing, windows and door systems in Wellesley.
So we can say this quite reliably to people. So the glass that you have in these windows is a near R10 performance triple pane glass assembly. And I think we need to draw a distinction here. It's like not every triple pane window is like built the same. We see a lot of triple pane windows here in North America that are coming with triple pane windows with really small argon spaces between the glass. And that glass is not as efficient as when you have the necessary spacer distance between the glass and the size of the argon cavity. For triple pane glass, you're not gonna get any more benefits for triple pane glass window if you go wider than this. So for triple pane glass, you're at the top of the energy performing chart here. So that's why I was telling you, like 10 years from now, these windows are still gonna be the most efficient and triple pane glass windows. So we have quadruple pane available to us, but the shift is not as huge in terms of the benefit.
What would be the benefit of going to quadruple pane glass?
Just a few decimal point extra in the U value performance for it. So it's not like computers where you can expect computers to like double up in speed or whatnot. With triple pane glass, this is probably going to be still our most efficient triple pane glass like 10 years from now. The reason why European windows are the ones that are used for this kind of energy efficiency is because the sash geometry enables you to put this thick of a glass in there. So North American window manufacturing right now, they're kind of scratching their heads of what they're gonna do with their sash design to enable this. And it's challenging, like in a double hung window, the sash dimensions are so much smaller, it's very difficult to get this kind of glass in there. So North American glass manufacturers are gonna have to rethink a little bit about how they're doing sash and frame and how they can make it work in a double hung window format. It's a tough challenge.
The last point here is the customization. That is a big reason why we end up working with you guys in Macroin, is the ability to customize each opening. There's actually two windows, one in the breakfast nook and then one to the left of in the kitchen, which look like tilt turns, but we actually didn't install the hardware. From their side, from a design perspective, they didn't want a panoramic piece of glass there. They wanted the white oak expressed. You guys were like, yeah, we can do that. We just literally won't put the hardware on.
Macroin is a unique company. It's a small bespoke window manufacturer. It's not very large. We have direct contact to the executives in the company that were directly involved in this project, and they go the extra distance for us. To make this window is truly unique in its geometry, particularly here at the bottom.
Yeah, because you don't typically see a shorter piece of glass next to a taller piece, and that's what we've done here, is the ability to have all of our finished surfaces die into that frame, but still have the operable function here. So Patrik, last thing, we talk about functionality, we talk about energy efficiency, and we talk about customization. But one of the questions that comes up for homeowners and anyone specifying a product like this, what about maintenance?
So these windows are some of the lowest maintenance windows out there. Everything that we were talking about what goes into this window, that perimeter finish, the cladding, it's all designed so you don't have to change these windows for many decades to come. And this is a big deal. Like we often tell people, it's really expensive to use mediocre windows in buildings, which then you have to change. All the labor that went into installing these, getting them, trimmed out from the inside, from the outside. It's really costly to be changing windows. And so when you're putting windows, especially in a high-end building like this, you want to postpone the necessity of replacing these windows as far as possible. I think you're looking here at like a 50-year-old window. These windows should last here half a century. This is going to save the future owner of this house like big money.
So you heard it here first. Patrik said we put the best windows we possibly could in our 45 white oak home.